And welcome to a very special edition of the Stakelbeck on Terror show. Well, if you watch this show on a regular basis, you know I have a big interest in Bible prophecy. I believe that everything that's going on in the world right now, all the chaos, all the unrest, is not a coincidence. That's why it's great to have my good friend Bill Salus back on the show this week. Bill is our resident Bible prophecy expert. He's also the author of a great new book, groundbreaking, called Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. So this is part one of my interview this week with Bill Salus about his book, Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Take a look. Let's drill down. Let's start with the basics. Tell us what is in Psalm 83. What does this collection of verses say?
Psalm 83, 18 verses, written 3,000 years ago, is an ancient Hebrew prophecy. It's interesting, Eric, just a brief orientation on it. It was written by Asaph, who was a psalmist. He was a chief worship leader, but he was also a prophet. We're told in 2 Chronicles 29, verse 30, that he was a seer. The Hebrew word is chozah, a beholder of vision, a prophet, just like Jeremiah, just like Isaiah, Ezekiel, etc. So he wrote 12 psalms. At a time he wrote this psalm, Israel was experiencing a condition of unprecedented blessings from the Abrahamic covenant. They were in their land. They had their King David. They were talking about building their temple. They were winning wars. They were expanding, which is an important point. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about Israel, maybe a greater Israel on the horizon. And in the midst of all that, he receives this prophecy, which is nothing short of an attempt of taking over the land, the promised land, and of a genocide of the chosen people, Eric. And what the psalm talks about in a nutshell is that there's an Arab confederacy that's going to come together with a specific plan, a specific mandate. And they say in Psalm 83, verse 4, let's cut the nation off that the name Israel will be remembered no more.
Sounds very familiar.
They want to wipe Israel off the map.
Exactly.
And in verse 12, we're told they want to take the pastures of God for themselves as a possession. So their motive is very specific. Destroy Israel, make another Arab state if this were to happen in the near future. And I think we're both watching for that, aren't we, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want another Arab state, and they want to call it Palestine.
So, Bill, who were some of the nations named in this Psalm 83 prophecy? This confederacy, as you say, that's going to come against Israel and try to wipe Israel off the map.
Yes, that's a very important point, because I think when a lot of people have read through Psalm 83 in the past, they get a little confused. You've got Edomites and Ammonites and Moabites and Assyrians and things like that. So I'm going to take the liberty in this interview as if Asaph the psalmist was sitting here in the studio and tell you who I believe he'd be talking about today. Let's start from north and we'll go around east to south. We've got Lebanon. That would be also including Hezbollah under the inhabitants of Tyre. You've got Syria and Iraq under the label of Assyria. You've got Jordan, which would have been the northern Jordan Ammonites, central Jordan Moabites, southern Jordan Edomites. You've got the Palestinian refugees, because the Edomites ultimately moved into southern Israel, into the West Bank area, into Hebron actually became their central city. You've got Edomites into the Palestinian refugees today. You have Saudi Arabia, Ishmaelites are listed. Father of the Arabs, Ishmael. You've got Hagarines would be Egypt. Hagar was Ishmael's mother. She came from Egypt, and who's there now emerging on the scene? You're writing about them in your new book, The Muslim Brotherhood.
Absolutely.
Big players to be watching.
Our new friends.
Yeah.
Moderate fellows.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if I'd go there. But we have also got the Hamas in the ancient Philistia.
Yeah.
Hamas. And what are they doing?
Gaza is ancient Philistia.
They've lobbed thousands of rockets in there since 2006.
And recently, Israel just completed another operation, Operation Pillar of Defense, Bill, going against Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Wanted to ask you, we're talking about this prophecy, we're talking about all of the nations surrounding Israel. This is a very timely, current prophecy. Did that Operation Pillar of Defense in Gaza, did that perhaps speed up the timetable a bit for Psalm 83 in your view, or?
Well, it's certainly evidence that possibility that Psalm 83 could happen as quickly as Hamas firing more missiles into Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
It could escalate that quickly. How Psalm 83 is going to be catalyzed and they're going to confederate together in a final climactic concluding Arab-Israeli war, We don't have the specific details. It could be very much an antagonist like Hamas, firing these Fajr 5 missiles from Iran into Tel Aviv,
exactly.
and or into Dimona. I mean, you know where the nuclear plant is. So it's very, very dangerous situation. It's interesting to me that there's this calm before the storm you and I were talking about before the program, because it really looks like at any given moment there's going to be a move on Israel and Hamas. You know, Hamas was founded by the Muslim Brotherhood.
They are the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, self-identified.
Absolutely, and so they're basically thinking now with the emergence of the Muslim Brotherhood in power in Egypt, with Mohammed Morsi, the president there, that this is their time now to be liberated. And matter of fact, Eric, in May of 2012, a cleric, sort of a campaign leader of Mohammed Morsi's presidential campaign, Safwat Higazi, and you can see this on YouTube if you search it out. And he has got crowds of thousands, and Mohammed Morsi's on the stage with them, and he's clearly talking about forming a United Arab States, liberating the Gaza. And where do you think they want the capital of the United Arab States to be? You would think Cairo, right? Jerusalem.
There's one small problem with that, Bill. Right now, Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish state. So how does the Muslim Brotherhood get around that?
Well, there's a much bigger problem. We're told in Zechariah 12, verses 2, 5, and 6, that Jerusalem will be a cup of trembling to those that surround Israel, and those that surround Israel we just listed. And there happen to be in Psalm 83. And it says that they will lay siege on Jerusalem. But it goes on to say down in verses 5 and 6, but at that time the governors of Judah, read that as like the Israeli Defense Forces, will be like a fiery torch, and the surrounding peoples will be like sheaves, because they will not be able to get Jerusalem. Who's going to win that war? The IDF, ranked number 10 among world armies right now, existing in fulfillment of Bible prophecy, I point out in the book, Psalm 83, or those people that want to curse the Jews, those Arabs that are confederate to curse the Jews. And I think we've talked about this on prior shows. That comes into the problem of Gentile foreign policy 4,000 years ago, established by God with Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, verses 2 and 3, where he says Abraham would be made a great nation, a great name. And at that time he said, I will bless those who bless you, Abraham. I will curse those who curse you. That goes on through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the Jewish people today. And we have a loving God we worship, Eric, but he has policy in place. And if they're going to curse Israel, they will enact upon themselves a curse for cursing kind.
Well, I hope our current administration here in the U.S., Bill, is listening to that. Interesting, kind of a side note to the whole, before we keep plowing on into Psalm 83, there was a discovery in Ireland, of all places. Now, I'm half Irish, so I like to have the Irish involvement in Bible prophecy. But tell us about the find related to Psalm 83 in an Irish bog, of all places.
Oh yes, this really caught a lot of attention. This was an amazing discovery. It was remarkable. And the timing was remarkable. So let's start from the beginning here. July 26, 2006, a construction worker in Irish bog soil, which Irish bog soil is very muddy, muddy soil. It's a marsh. He's got his backhoe and his bulldozers, and they're doing a construction project. Mind you, this is no archaeological dig with toothbrushes. And they're excavating in there, and it comes to a halt abruptly because they notice all these antiquities spread out across in the bog soil. And what they were, Eric, was a bunch of the books of Psalms written in Latin that had been buried in there, they think, for about 1,200 years in this bog soil. And unfortunately, out of the 150 Psalms, 149 of them were pretty much ruined, dilapidated, and they're in a museum trying to be salvaged. But I said out of the 150 Psalms, 149, that means one Psalm was not involved and ruined, but was there. And guess what Psalm that was, Eric?
Psalm 83.
Psalm 83. It was opened in place and unblemished after 1,200 years, sitting in this. It was heralded as the time as the Irish Dead Sea Scroll discovery.
Wow.
Now, that in itself is remarkable. But when you add to the fact the timing of it, it wasn't found in 1643 or 1872. It was found in July 26 of 2006, which happens to be the time where there was right in the middle of the Hezbollah-Israeli 34-day conflict, when Hassan Nasrallah and his Hezbollah bad boys lobbed 4,000 missiles into northern Israel and put many Israelis into bomb shelters for a month. Right in the middle of that time, 2 weeks into it, this discovery is made. And you know why that's fascinating, Eric? because out of the 31,173 verses in the Bible, the 1,189 chapters in the Bible, and the 150 Psalms I talked about, this is the only place you're going to find any resemblance of Hezbollah going face to face in a war with Israel. They're called the inhabitants of Tyre in Psalm 83, and of course they're at a war with Israel. To me, and at the time I'm writing Israelistine, the central theme that you mentioned earlier in your show was Psalm 83, and this new book is the sequel to that. That answers every objection I've heard about Psalm 83, takes into consideration what is the Arab Spring all about, what is America's role in this war. So many important things we need to know.
Well, we're going to talk about all that and much more coming up with Bill Salus, author of Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Don't move. Do you want to know the truth about the jihadist in your backyard? Then be sure to pick up my book, The Terrorist Next Door: How the Government is Deceiving You About the Islamist Threat. Available wherever books are sold from coast to coast. Remember to check out the Stakelbeck on Terror blog at cbnnews.com 24/7 for the latest on these and other stories.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 US gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help!
If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was. Help! And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
And welcome back. We're talking to Bill Salus, author of the book Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Bill, in your title, in the subtitle, you call Psalm 83 The Missing Prophecy. What do you mean by that?
Well, the title signifies a couple things, Eric. One is this prophecy was pretty much missed. It had been, as I was writing about Psalm 83, I had searched through the commentaries, and mainly people had written about it as a prayer, and they call it an imprecatory prayer or a prayer of lament. Very few people had really looked at the intrinsic prophetic values of the psalm, especially for our time. There was just a few people that I could glean any information from, and they had just summarily written about it in passing.
That's why I think your work is so groundbreaking on this, Bill, because I always heard about Ezekiel 38, 39, which I know we'll talk about, but hadn't heard much about Psalm 83. And I actually asked, he will remain nameless, but a prophecy expert, what do you think of Psalm 83 after I talked to you? And he kind of stammered a bit and didn't know much about Psalm 83.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people do know about it. Google search, when I did this back in 2006, 2007, under Psalm 83 Prophecy or Psalm 83 War, you would maybe get a few thousand hits. But if you search those right now, you're going to get millions of hits, because this is a buzz now that's going on. And the other thing, in the title, The Missing Prophecy Revealed, is the fact that when you understand how Psalm 83 fits into the prophetic picture, the prophetic puzzle, it really was a missing piece that now everything makes so much sense when you fit this prophecy in its right
Yeah,
place.
because we talked about the last time you were on the show, Bill. We had great back-to-back episodes before. You have the inner ring of Muslim nations around Israel, the Psalm 83 nations that we'll see on the map here. And also you have that outer ring of Ezekiel 38, 39 nations. You can't have that Ezekiel invasion without first that inner ring being dealt with by Israel, right?
Absolutely, and that's the point. I coined the term in my books, inner circle, like you said, the Psalm 83 sharing common borders with Israel, and the outer ring. The Ezekiel 38 prophecy, just briefly for your audience, it's a major Mideast invasion spearheaded by Russia. It includes Iran, Turkey, Libya, Ethiopia, the southern steppes of Russia. We think Tunisia might be in there, Somalia. Some people even throw Germany in there. That's a general consensus. But you'll notice none of those share common borders with Israel, none of those countries. They're all predominantly Muslim, except for Russia, as is Psalm 83 is all predominantly Muslim. But what's interesting is that invasion of Ezekiel 38, they're not coming for the pastures of God like Psalm 83, the promised land. They're coming for plunder and great booty. They have to cross over the Psalm 83 territories to get into Israel. They come from the uttermost parts of the north. None of the populations of Psalm 83 are listed in Ezekiel 38, and vice versa. None of the populations in Ezekiel 38 are listed in Psalm 83. So
It just doesn't add up without Psalm 83.
And an outer ring.
Yeah.
And this is the part of the additional subtitle, how Israel becomes the next Mideast superpower.
Which we're going to get into, Bill, after the break. Again, as Bill said, additional subtitle, how Israel becomes a massive superpower economically, militarily in the Middle East in the wake of this Psalm 83 war. Much more coming up with Bill Salus. Stay tuned. Remember to check out the Stakelbeck on Terror blog at cbnnews.com 24/7 for the latest on these and other stories.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
And welcome back to this prophecy special of Stakelbeck on Terror. We're talking to our good friend Bill Salus, author of the must-read new book, Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Bill, I look at this Psalm 83 invasion force, and two nations jump out at me, Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Now, in Psalm 83, Jordan is referred to, or I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia is referred to as the Ishmaelites. Then you have Edomites, Moabites, and the Ammonites, referring to modern-day Jordan. Now, a lot of people looking at that prophecy might say, well, how will Jordan be involved? Because Israel and Jordan have a peace treaty right now. And the Saudi regime is kind of at odds with some of the players in Psalm 83, like Syria, like the Brotherhood in Egypt. How would they be involved?
That's a good point, Eric. If we think Psalm 83 is imminent, could happen real soon, we do have a few things that sort of stand in the way, and one of them is that peace treaty between Israel and Jordan. But also Egypt and Israel have a peace treaty too. But we've seen what's happened in Egypt. There's a passing of the guard now, the Mohammed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood. That peace treaty with Israel, many people feel, between Egypt and Israel, is very threatened at this point in time.
I believe, Bill, that's a huge piece of the prophetic puzzle, what's going on in Egypt right now. We're going to talk about that more on the next show with Bill, the future of Egypt. But I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so that peace treaty will probably not last very long, because when Psalm 83 happens, no peace treaties are going to stand. And then that would put Jordan with the lone wolf peace treaty in the Middle East, and that is going to be very problematic. But there's also, you're seeing in the Arab Spring, all the passing of the old Arab leader guards. You got Gaddafi's gone in Libya, Mubarak is gone now, Saleh, who reigned for 33 years in Yemen, and you had the Bedin Ali in Tunisia. And these people were not really people that you would think would go into a war with Israel. But look who's left now, Eric. Look who's left. Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, Ahmadinejad and Khamenei in Iran, Morsi now with the Muslim Brotherhood. It's the Hamas, Haniyeh and Mashal, Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority. They're still intact, and they don't really like Israel. And so there's concerns that there's going to be a fall in Jordan, that King Abdullah could be the next one.
Muslim Brotherhood very strong there.
Absolutely. And similarly, in Saudi Arabia, there's concerns they might have their own Arab Spring as well. But remember that with Jordan, they were drawn in sort of by Gamal Nasser of Egypt into that 1967 war. And we kind of have a clue in Psalm 83, verses 6 through 8, that it says, Assyria helps or lends a shoulder of support to Moab, the children of Lot, Moab and Ammon. So it's like Jordan sort of gets drawn in, maybe much like they did in 1967.
Yeah, that's a great point. And two things, Bill. Number one, I was in Israel recently, and well-connected Israelis I spoke to said, look, we're very concerned about Jordan and Saudi Arabia. And Muslim Brotherhood leaders said, look, the kingdoms are next. Muslim Brotherhood leaders have said, meaning the kingdom of Jordan, kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Another interesting thing, Bill, I find is that the Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt is now forging closer ties with that Iranian regime. They had no diplomatic ties under Mubarak for about 30 years. Now they're getting close together. But moving on, once these regimes are toppled by Israel, Israel becomes the next Middle East superpower, according to the subtitle of your book. Tell us more about that.
Yes, absolutely. What's interesting is that the Israeli Defense Forces are in Bible prophecy. Ezekiel 37:10 tells us that they will become an exceedingly great army. Ezekiel 25:14 tells us that the Lord will execute his vengeance on Edom, in this case the Palestinian refugees and their consortia, in Psalm 83, by the hand of his people Israel. The IDF. Obadiah 1:18 tells us that the house of Jacob will be a fire, the house of Joseph will be a flame, but the house of Esau, which you've got the Edomites came from, into the Palestinian refugees, they have ethnicity into the Palestinian refugees, shall be stubble, and no survivor shall remain. See, Edom is listed in the first position of the 10 populations of Psalm 83 as the tents of Edom, and that represents them in a refugee condition. So Israel's going to win this war, and when they win a war, Eric, they normally, and there's historical precedence for this, is they dwell securely, but they also take some land. They did this in 1967. So Israel will become a superpower. It'll probably be a greater Israel, a little more territory. King David did it 3,000 years ago when he won wars. Joshua did it 3,300 years ago when he won wars. Now remember, Genesis 15:18 allots to Abraham the land from the river of Egypt, the Nile, to the river Euphrates, which courses through Iraq and Syria. About 15 times what Israel occupies right now. So Israel, I believe, will be a greater, safer place, and I think that's the Israel that Russia comes after in Ezekiel 38 and 39. I would say one last caveat, though. I don't necessarily think Israel is going to take all the land from the Nile River to the river Euphrates after Psalm 83. I do believe when Jesus returns, that's when he'll bequeath all that land to them.
But we got to hit the commercial. Leave it right there. Wrapping up with Bill Salus. Don't move.
An important message for those who have currently applied or are thinking about applying for a reverse mortgage. You've probably seen commercials with famous actors talking about reverse mortgages, telling you how you can eliminate your monthly mortgage payment, still own your home, and live the life of your dreams. Well, most of that is true, but you need the facts. Call now for our 7 Secrets of Reverse Mortgages. This simple-to-read brochure includes information about possible hidden fees, which program benefits you and not the bank, and how to negotiate better terms. We'll give you facts that are easy to understand. You'll learn about the 5 most misleading claims that some lenders make. For example, that you can't lose your home with a reverse mortgage. The fact is, foreclosure may occur if you live somewhere other than the home for a period of time, or you fail to pay real estate taxes or insurance. You need to call to get the facts. Operators are standing by.
Call 1-888-842-6237 or visit our website now.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
And welcome back. We're wrapping up with Bill Salus, author of Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Well, Bill, we have a whole other show coming up, and we're going to dig even deeper into Psalm 83 and all of the just fascinating topics in your book. America, where is America in prophecy we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about Egypt, Ezekiel 38-39. Tell us a bit more about the aftermath of Psalm 83. We only have about 30 seconds left. Real quick to kind of just tease us for the next show.
Well, the world's going to be in shock, Eric, when they see the Israeli Defense Forces ranked number 10 among world armies defend itself. It's a matter of survival. And you might even see weapons of mass destruction introduced into the theater. Isaiah 17:1 talks about Damascus will cease to be a city. It will be a ruinous heap. And in verse 14 tells us it looks like it happens overnight. Israel
Damascus will cease to be a city.
The world's going to be in a state of shock, really, when they see this happen. And Israel will be able to dwell securely, which is a prerequisite of Ezekiel 38, which I think we're talking about in the next program.
Well, Bill, we are going to talk about the next program, my friend. Come back next week with Bill Salus, author of Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Must read. Next week, much more with Bill. Until then, take care and God bless.